The one society that did educate its girls was Sparta, to which I want to turn next. But before I do so, I want to emphasize that we see Sparta entirely from the outside. We have no literature from Sparta to help us build up the picture of daily life. We learn about Spartan education mainly from the biographer and philosopher Plutarch, who was describing a system that had become defunct hundreds of years before he lived. So, let's now suppose you're a Spartan boy and that you've survived the process of selection at birth I mentioned earlier. At the age of 6, you'll leave your parents and be subjected to a system of state education that manifested all the worst features of a Victorian boarding school. Its object is to instill discipline, obedience, and low cunning in you. It probably had the further consequence of turning you first into a brat and then into a bully. At 12, you're placed in the equivalent of a barracks and kept on a minimal diet so as to encourage you to steal without being caught. There's a famous story of a Spartan boy who got caught with a fox he had stolen that he was hiding under his cloak. Rather than admit to his crime and undergo shame, the boy denied the charge while the fox gnawed his entrails, so causing him to die. Then at 16, you'll enter a sort of military police known as the Kruptire, and for a period of about 2 years, you'll live in the wild in Messenia, the region to the west of Sparta, and you'll have to fend for yourself while also intimidating the subjected so-called helot population. Sparta was a very rigid, disciplined, and conservative society. I seriously doubt that the Spartans had much trouble with juvenile delinquents. Not so the Athenians. We hear of a group of vandals who went around Athens at night disfiguring the faces of the herms and smashing their phalluses. A herm was a stone pillar surmounted by a carved head with an erect phallus that served as a boundary marker. It was otherwise uncarved. The crime may have been intended as a prank, but it had serious consequences because it was regarded as an extremely bad omen, and it was committed on the eve of the departure of the Athenian naval expedition to Sicily in 416 BC. The Vandals, whatever their motive, were never caught. To conclude, as you were growing up Greek, you would have experienced death at close quarters, almost certainly losing a brother or a sister, as well as one or both of your parents, and perhaps several close friends of your own age. You would also have come to recognize that you were the member of an exclusive group, and you would have accepted unquestioningly that not all people were human in the fullest sense of the word. In the next lecture, we're going to examine the plight of slaves who remained, irrespective of the years they attained, children in the eyes of their owners, boy being the form of address most commonly used of male slaves, as was a practice too in this country under slavery.